Yeah, we're gonna do a little tete-a-tete. We're gonna have our own little salon. All right, so what I would like to know is what are some of the things that inspire you about this city? What's so special about this city for you?
Okay, when I first came to Baltimore, oh my God, there were so many objects around to use in my art. Like, the streets were filled with stuff that I could get, like bottles,
Yes.
potato chip bags, old tennis shoes. That's it.
What inspires me is overall the people, the weather, the communities, the way the housing is set up, our apartment buildings, the way the county line is. It's just all the architecture of Baltimore, the way that we speak, the accents, all of that inspires me.
What inspires me is this thing, filling this hole. You know, I've danced all my life. I started dancing when I was 3, and I was totally confused. Why? When I found African dance, right? When I'm like, I was 15, and this is the best thing since sliced bread. I'm never going to point my toes again. And that began the journey to equalize the thing. Because if this can be on stage and respected, then this surely should be on stage and respected. And if young people can learn about this as they cultivate their formative years, then surely this has to be a part of a well-rounded experience. So that's my, in and out of Baltimore. I go out to infuse in, and I have done that for really 40 years.
One of the things that many of you who are not from this area may not know about the kind of like social structure or the geographical landscape of Baltimore is that this is a city of neighborhoods. Neighborhoods. And each neighborhood has its own name. Each neighborhood has its own style. Each neighborhood has its own festivals, block parties. It has a sense of community and identity, which I found very endearing coming from New York, where even as I left New York in the aftermath of the assassination of Martin Luther King, I began to see developers moving in, literally extricating the heart, the life, the character of a city of that magnitude, because in New York, New Yorkers don't think they belong to the United States. They believe that they are their own nation, all right?
On another note of that, Leslie, there's a museum here called the American Visionary Art Museum.
Right,
Yes.
yes.
My work is in there, and several other museums here where my work is. The one thing about Baltimore, you can pretty much develop and do if you have an idea, you can get it done.
Right.
Rebecca Hofberger took that corner. There was nothing there.
That's right.
Absolutely nothing there.
That's right.
It also helped that she had an extremely rich husband at the time. But, but the fact, no. I mean, you had to get zoning, you had to get permits, you had to get the approval of the people. And a lot of times, the people approve the arts in Baltimore. We have so many art entities here where we can develop and do and create. I mean, I've even created I've even mosaicked a police station.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So the opportunity in Baltimore for the arts is phenomenal.
Right.
It really is. There's a lot of financing and funding for the arts here in Baltimore.
That's right.
And here's the last thing. The arts is the one thing that unites us, Jews and Gentiles here in Baltimore. I mean, it just brings everybody together. And art opening, you'll see a gamut of people, won't you, Leslie?
Yes,
You'll see
all the time.
all the time, all over. And it unites us, and I love that about Baltimore. Love it.
One of the things that I was challenged with after I got that high-end, pile high and deep degree, people want to know, well, why are you staying in Baltimore? Because, you could go to New York. I said, look, the Amtrak is my A train, okay?
There you go. There you go.
All right? Ain't nothing but a train ride, okay? Just got back yesterday from New York. No big deal. But what I began to understand, and Loring is absolutely right, I got to do things here, exhibitions here, that I could not have ever gotten through the systems of New York City with its mired bureaucracies. Do you understand? I got to expand my creativity. Oh, just walk it up here. Come on, just walk it up. This is Baltimore. Come on. We don't stand on those formalities.
Fabulous haircut.
Thank
Let's just
you.
give her a hand.
Yes. There you go. So this was a place for me for opportunity, and not only that, and I'm going to go to the first question here. This was a community of artists who were willing, hungry, and eager to get things done. So here, first question. My city needs more cohesion among artists. Everyone seems to be in their own corner. Haven't we heard that before? How do you recommend encouraging collaboration?
Artists are normally people who go into a corner. You need to do that to power up and create. Many artists don't have the wherewithal to persevere and plow things down and maybe curate a house or 2 or 3, right? Or a police station, or maybe take when I started Sankofa, people would say, yeah, just bring that thing and drum on it and bang on something and, those things in those rags. No. Many people don't have the wherewithal to persevere and create a vision of excellence from an expectation of nothingness. Like jazz, like tap, it takes that. So I would say the cohesion comes about when you either get out of the way or you act as a connector. But it is important not to pile it in and think that you are the savior and the responsibility to usurp the voice. That's what I would say.
I would also say as well, I second that. However, having events, it doesn't have to be a party, but having an event, having social gatherings, creating groups on social media, that can really be a way to bring everyone together, because in my collaboration process always starts with, like Loring was saying, that conversation, but then also having a social gathering with some common things that everyone likes around, and just getting together in that way as well.
Cool. I'm going to do something here unprecedented again. I'm kind of like that out-of-the-box person. Mr. Fun, would you please join us on the panel and bring your chair?
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice.
I invite him to the panel because some of these future questions here that are coming up directly pertain to the work that he is also doing. All right?
Awesome.
So,
Nice to have you.
Next question. What is one story you have of overcoming failure or adversity as an artist?
Mr. Fun.
I once said that I would never ever teach music again. I was involved in teaching drama at a middle school, and an opportunity opened for me to go to Dunbar, and I said, okay, I'll do it one more time. And in going to Dunbar, everybody, the teachers, some of the administrators, the people in the neighborhood told me that you can't build a band at this school because if you give the instruments to the kids will take them to the pawn shop, buy drugs, etc., so forth and so on. And the one thing that they don't know about me is that you never, ever tell me you can't.
There you go.
Ever tell an artist, a musician, that they can't, because then they turn into this animal, this Tasmanian devil, which will overcome any kind of adversity. I go in the band room, there are 5 horns. 3 of them are broken. One of them is in fairly good condition, but it belonged to a student that left it there 2 years ago, and he came down and got it, so I had 1 horn. I have some friends of mine who have which had a repair shop for the city. Got $1,500 from my principal, and I went to that repair shop. I got the instruments that could be repaired for $25, $50. Eventually, I had enough horns that I could put together a jazz ensemble. Went to play senior citizens' homes, men's room in the Greyhound bus station, wherever they wanted to have live music, I was there performing. I said, you pay for the bus and feed us, give us a donation, we're there. And the history of that has been, I put millions of kids through school. Some are still musicians, some are professional musicians, some are lawyers and doctors, because I tell them, I'm not trying to make you a musician. I'm trying to show you that through music, you can become a better human being. It teaches you to think, it teaches you discipline.
Real quick story, 30 seconds. I didn't have any water, I didn't have any lights, I didn't have any electricity. It was the middle of winter. I'm from California, I'm cold. I'm sitting in my living room, and in order to keep warm, I have a candle. And in order to keep warm, I start cutting up some shoes that I found. And I'm like, God, I can't take this, I can't take it, just to keep warm. And so I make this art out of shoes, and I'm freezing in the house, and I'm saying, God, I can't do this anymore. I make this piece of art. At the very moment I thought it was all over, that piece of art is the main piece of art in the Reginald Lewis Museum. It represents their entire museum. They paid me thousands for it. I think at times when we're at our breaking point, I think it's our beginning point.
Yes. Oh. Yes.
So well stated. All right, I'm going to go, and because my clock is ticking here, but I want to get you all in this. How do you deal with the daily reality of structural racism and the people who consciously and unconsciously uphold it?
Dr. Leslie King-Hammond.
You know, when I started my life, there were 2 things that defined it for me unknowingly in my youth. And that was the moment, which was over kind of like a 2-year period, where I lost my innocence as a child. And the first one was walking to school one day, and I saw on a poster, and I was probably around 11-ish years old, I saw a poster of a young boy. At first I didn't know what it was, but it was the open casket picture of Emmett Till. It terrorized me because I could not speak to my parents. I didn't hear my parents or my community talk about it. And it wasn't until my 40s that I could talk about it. Shortly after that, I read a book in school, required reading. It had just been published, and that was The Diary of Anne Frank. I was done with humanity. I said, I got to be from an extraterrestrial space. Because this thing called being a human, being an earthling, being a citizen of the world has been lost to the world if we keep continually doing this. I deal with structural racism and I identify it because I live with it every day. Something happens every day, the most subliminal, the most subtle, do you understand, that I have to deal with it. But as Michelle Obama says, when they take the low road, I take the high road. It is not worth having the argument or convincing people. You have to live by example. 2 weeks ago, I was in New York doing a panel for the Appraisers Association of America. That's a group. You talk about a room full of structural racism? I was in the catbird seat, moderating a panel on African American art, and why all of a sudden It is all the rage in the art market, but it is only a certain segment of it. We had a wonderful panel. I was moderating. I had a dealer next to me, Michael Rosenfeld, who has been in this from day one, committed to identifying women, artists of color, and mid-century artists who have not been recognized. And then I had an African-American collector who had money and was buying art for over 30 years. We laid it down. After it was over, a woman came up to me. You know, I'm really so concerned. Where are the leaders? Leader, who's going to lead us out of this horrible world that we're living in with all of these difficulties? And I looked at her and I listened. I was patient. I said, I don't know what planet she came from. But I didn't say that. I just looked at her and I said, you know, at the end of the day, quote unquote, as we look at what's happening in Washington, D.C., there is going to be a trail of fake news, of disasters, of insurmountable odds that guess who's going to be having to clean it up? It's us. It's the creative community. Because who else has the capacity, the right brain abstract thinking to go into a mess and make absolutely fantastic sensibility and beauty?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
The woman obviously did not expect that response from me. And then I looked at her. I said, and if you're looking for a leader, when you go home, look in the mirror. Because leadership starts with you.
There you go.
There you go. If you, as an individual, encounter those persons, then you, in fact, have to have a focus and an intensity and a commitment to what you're doing, to give honor to the creativity, the artistry, and all those things that are worthy in our profession. Because, you know, even before there was racism, they didn't think too highly of us in the arts community. You know, we were always dismissed. Yes. But now here we are, center stage, because nobody knows what to do but us. And Lauren is right. You don't need a plan. Brayaira, she just jumped up on me. She said, oh, that text was for somebody else. Guess what? I can handle it.
That's right.
I can handle this.
That's right.
All right?
That's right.
I can handle this. Mr. Fun came on the stage, all right?
That's right.
And Lauren said, first up on the question, he was ready.
That's right.
If you're here doing what you're doing and learning, learn by example. Because next to you is someone who is also doing the same thing. That is the only way we're going to break this down and create a quality of life that is meaningful, that is committed to a future, so that we have the kind of society and worthiness. I tell people, you know, I had one little quickie story. President used to call me up all the time and invite me to these meetings. I said, why are you inviting me to this meeting? Well, we need you there. I said, finally, after about the 15th time, I said, you needed some color at the meeting. Because I get to the meeting and then I say something. If I say something, you ignore it. Or in the next 5 meetings, you take what I have said and own it for yourself, okay? I said, but for this meeting today that you are calling me, I can't come. He said, why? I said, because today I'm Korean. You understand? You have to flip the script sometimes. Take some humor. But guess what? He didn't ever call me again for a meeting unless the topic and the agenda of the meeting was germane to the skills and the contribution I could give to that meeting. Eventually, that's how I got a Center for Race and Culture for a nanosecond, because after they got into it, they went, oh my God, this is too scary. But didn't stop me. I just step over the piles, wash my feet off, and keep on going. Same to you.
There's a saying that our grandparents had, that if all that life gives you is lemons, then you make sure that you make lemonade.
Right.
Out of racism, out of adversity comes creative art. You use what you have in order to turn it into something creative. That in turn inspires other people, and it just unfolds and folds, and it grows. Whatever you have, you make some kind of art or make something creative out of it, and it'll expand.
And teach somebody while you're at it.
Share it. Share it. Now, how do you stay focused on the light when there is so much darkness?
Staying focused on the light is a choice. We have that choice every second of every day. Focus on the light. Make the choice. Make the choice. Change takes strength. It takes consideration. It takes making consistent choices. And you might have to make that choice minute after hour after day, but keep making the choice, because if we don't choose light, then the darkness will overcome us. Choose light. Choose light.
And also love the light and love the darkness, because it's so much to get out of the darkness as well as the light. That can help you to stay focused if you can identify the parts of the darkness and the parts of the light that can help and benefit you. Then you take it from there. If you guys know what I'm saying.
Yeah, you have to be aware of the darkness. You have to be aware so that it does. You got to know what to step over.
Yes.
Right? Yeah?
I also think that the darkness is not a bad thing. I think that when we feel a negative vibe or something and we can't focus on what we think is the light, then I embrace the darkness. If I can't do the joy, the happy, the smiling, then I do the dark thing. When all the shootings were going on, with all the black men killing and this, that, and the other, I woke up in the middle of the night and said, I got to do something. I couldn't move because this thing was in me. And I got to do something. I got to do something. I can't focus on it'll get better. Kumbaya. Hell no. My God. And so out of that darkness came a protest move. In front of my house, in front of the Jesus house, there was a tree. And I wanted to hang bodies in front of the tree, 6-foot bodies. But I wanted to get it done, so I was running around looking for 6-foot bodies to do, but I couldn't find them quick enough. So I went and bought 150 dolls, and I spray painted them black, and I hung them from the tree.
That's right.
My God! Because I wanted to focus on that thing that was down inside of me, and I had to get it out.
That's right. That's right.
And that thing went all around the world.
Well, the light is not necessarily kumbaya, is usually not kumbaya. Being aware, it is an awareness that takes you to a more productive place. So if it is about 150 bodies that inspire or create awareness, that is also light. That is light. Light is rigorous. Life is rigorous. It's not kumbaya. Be afraid of that easy thing.
Life is messy. That's all. Embrace it. Use it as the kind of fertilizing, catalytic energy that you need to move forward. If there is no light, there can be no darkness. And we need the range. We need the 180 degrees. That's why the sun goes up and the sun goes down. I would like to say that the other thing is that we all have to accept something very real in ourselves, and that is that we are perfectly imperfect.
Thank God.
Perfectly imperfect. And when we can learn to live with that difference, that's all it is. It's just a different way of being. As long as we're not hurting each other or anyone else or our environment, all right? We have to learn to love and embrace it. I want to thank each and every one of you. This has been wonderful for us. We hope it's been wonderful for you, and we hope this weekend is a stellar success. Thank you.